Start the stream. Stream is red, but we're streaming.
We're not, but we are. Or we are, but we're
Yeah,
not.
we are.
From the industrial wastelands of Michigan to the fruited plains of Iowa, this is the American Greed Factory.
I don't feel like a song today. We'll just do that. Nobody likes that unless you need it to blow your nose or something.
Yeah, I was gonna blow my nose, take a drink, you know.
Oh, okay. Well, go ahead. Just hit the mic mute, and I'll just talk to myself. And so, yeah, that's sometimes you feel like music, sometimes you don't. I don't know on podcasts if people want to listen. Sometimes you just want to listen to a podcast. You don't want it just to start and go crazy.
Oh, you gotta let them know it started.
It's starting. Get ready. Light your cigarette. It's time to go.
Start your treadmill.
This is our cold open. My special guest, Mike Pence. Seen those weird memes with him?
No.
Well, they had that meeting with Trump and Pelosi and Schumer in the White House, and Trump was just being a complete jackass about the border wall and just like, I'm going to shut the government down. It was Trump being Trump. And Mike Pence was sitting there like in a chair like this. His eyes were closed and his mouth was open. And so people just took that image, and it's like, they had the go to your happy place, and they had him Mike, where it was his head, and it was like a bunch of gay burlesque dancing, all kinds of crazy shit. Or it was him and the ex-governor of New Jersey sitting on a beach, Mike in his like office chair, and this guy in his beach chair. So yeah, that was. Oh, that poor hillbilly.
He'll be president soon enough.
Yeah, we'll find out. That's why I keep telling everyone. It's like, they're gonna get rid of Trump. They're gonna get him. It's like, well, yeah, they might, but remember, the Ayatollah Mike Pence waits in the wings. So you might want to think about that. Who's after him as Speaker of the House? Who's that going to be? Nancy Pelosi? Oh. Yeah, how's that going to go? I don't know. As fucked up as our government's always gone.
I remember this is a long time ago. This is like when Trump just started out the presidency, and there's some real, it's like, it's the start of the Russian investigation. Somebody was like on CNN. It was like a commenter, so of course they're just full of shit and trying to drive up, trying to antagonize the situation.
They're basically doing the same shit we're doing, but wearing a suit. Yeah.
Yeah. And then they're like posing this idea that like they should put Hillary in the cabinet, and then like a secession of resignation, so then Hillary can be president like she rightfully should. Like, that's never going to fucking happen.
Actually, if they did do that, even legitimately, like say somebody's like, that's a good idea, maybe we should do that after all, everyone would scream conspiracy. It would never be legitimized. I mean,
and the Republicans would never hand over power that they have. Like,
no.
They only do that if the people voted away from them. It's like, we were going to just keep taking all this power. We don't care what anybody says.
Yeah, it's not that's some weird shit for people to propose on TV. I think if I was on that panel, it'd just be a picture of me looking over at the person like they just grew another head or something. What are you talking about? The biggest thing since the JFK assassination. That's our government in action.
And then I had some like emergency news, or it was like sometimes they my phone will forward news stories, but not from New York Times because I have that app. But it would be like from like not even Google News, like whatever Samsung's local news thing.
Oh.
And it was like an alert, and it was like something about like Trump being impeached or something like that. I was like, what? And then it was like a theoretical article about like, what if in the last days of the Trump presidency he resigns the presidency so Pence can what do you call that when you absolve people of their
Oh, pardon.
crime? Yeah, pardon them. No, pardon Trump.
Well, it would be a fitting end to the
That
presidency.
doesn't seem suspicious at all.
Yeah. Go along. I mean, it only killed Ford's chances at being president. But yeah, that's. I do like some of the thinking, some of the, just the hopeful. Like, oh, what if we get the Octavia woman from New York and make her Speaker of the House? It's like, yeah, okay, so you can lose the next election. Like, oh, what about this person? He's so crazy. He wants health care for everyone. And he doesn't want us to use gas. And it's like we're all gonna just float around on rainbows. It's like, yeah, you're guaranteeing 4 more years. They'll fucking bring Trump out of prison then. So yeah, I don't think there's a lot of good ideas floating around out there. There's a lot of fucking hyperbole and fantasy.
Yeah, because that's what that's that's what they do in the news to generate interest.
Yeah, it keeps eyes on.
It's not it's not based in reality. It's just makes your eyes roll. It's like there are some compelling arguments that have real effects on people that you could be arguing, or we could just fantasize.
You just spitball here and see what sticks.
Just political pornography.
I mean, yeah, it's like Ellen DeGeneres made $100 million last year, just entertaining people, just being funny, and it's like this.
Or not.
or not, yeah. Well, she's got a new comedy special coming out.
Oh, she does? Huh.
So.
Is it just like a straight stand-up special, or is it some sort of weird
no
variety show?
Her saying cursing a lot and being kind of the opposite of what she.
Okay.
Which actually she didn't do a lot of that in her regular comedy before.
No. I mean, that's why she got a television show in the first place.
Yeah, I think that's going to end. I think she's tired of it. So.
Well, no, like her first television show.
Oh, the TV. Oh, yeah.
Back when they just gave every comedian a television show based on their act.
Comedian got a television show. I want to give the guy from Joe Rogan a television, a Diaz. I want to see Venture Hour. But yeah, that's you can make a lot of money just entertaining people, but when you're supposed to be the news, it's kind of scary.
Well, I mean, they got away from the. I don't know. Maybe it's a thing, but both like ESPN went the same route. That's why people are just getting off of ESPN too, because it's the same thing, but it's because it has less political ideology. People don't see that it's exactly the same.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, because they got a lot of talking heads, a lot of theoretical people making bold predictions about everything, and then people yelling at each other, and then people stop watching it.
Yeah, it's this is too serious.
Well, because what I used to like about ESPN is they would just have ESPN for 5 hours, and it was basically the same hour every hour,
Yeah.
and then maybe a minor change at every hour. But it's basically the same hour for 5 hours straight, in case you missed something.
Yeah.
And that's how the news was. It was just the same hour of news over and over again until something was different. And then you had your local, news, and then 7 p.m. or whatever you have the major network news. And then no, let's have talking heads and game shows and
Literally 24-hour fucking news hyperbole.
yeah.
News hyperbole. That's because I don't even watch it anymore. I mean, I don't.
No.
I read it. And like I said, I have to read 3 different things because the New York Times I like until I don't. And
Yeah.
I'm okay, we've gone too far. And it's kind of like the radio. It's well, let's listen to NPR for a while. Let's listen to some Rush Limbaugh. Because we have just gone into a weird world, and you listen to Rush Limbaugh for an hour, and you're like, "Oh, fuck that!" Classic rock.
'Cause I don't even like I don't even watch like the Daily Show or Real Time with Bill Maher. I don't even watch that stuff anymore.
I checked out on Bill Maher a long time ago. Yeah, I don't.
I do. I'll occasionally step in for Last Week Tonight because that usually seems to be like pretty well done, like entertaining and informative.
Yeah, I like that because that was the best. That's the best of the Daily Show, just distilled.
Yeah.
It's a little much at once. Sometimes I split my This Week Tonight up because I'll watch something about like health insurance or what they're doing to people, and I was like, okay, I'm fucking done. Okay, I'll watch the rest of this later. Yeah, that seems to distill the essence of what the Daily Show used to be. So yeah, sometimes I'll tune into that, but most of the news, I make an effort to read my news.
Yeah.
Because there's no one just flapping their hands. They're not talking about something with like a picture of a mushroom cloud behind them, and it's like, what is this about? Oh, taxes. Okay, or no one's selling me talking about mesothelioma or some other problem.
Cash for gold.
Yeah, cash for. Yeah, the Fox News when I watch that occasionally, because sometimes me and Stacy, something will happen in the news, like little Cohen being sentenced. It's like, oh, let's go to Fox News and see what's going on. Fucking crazy this is get. It's like Shepard Smith is the fucking voice of reason on Fox News, but everything else is crazy. And then, but yeah, I love their commercials. They're still trying to get people to buy precious metals. Just all kinds of weird stuff.
Do they have Bitcoin mining commercials on Fox News? That seems like something they would do.
They would, but I don't think their typical users know what computer.
Okay.
Yeah, because the Fox News, they say like they have this huge ratings pool of people they get, but they're like, you can almost chart the fucking death rate. Viewership is going to go down year over year based on ages and death. So yeah, once they got about 5 more years before they got to start looking bring that new alt-right Nazi crowd, that young crowd in, because eventually Fox News is just going to go alt-right. I'm convinced, because the old guard Nazis that have fucked this country up for the last 40 years, they're just going to start dying off. So, but yeah, they're always trying to get you to. What's the other thing? Oh, vacations to the Holy Land. There's all kinds of like religiously themed vacations you can take to the Middle East, and it's like, oh, this sounds like hell. I would never go to any of those places for that reason. I wouldn't mind going to those places and seeing some of those sites, but not on a package tour, just kind of on my own. So yeah, that's always interesting what they got on Fox News, and the later it gets into the night, the weirder the advertising gets. And then Red Eye comes on, and it's a bunch of young people, and it's like, oh, okay, or at least seemingly young people. By young people, I mean people my age, comedians and stuff.
Yeah, recent stand-up comedians who've given up on their careers.
Yeah, angry comedians who are now just borderline alt-right Nazi types. Want to spread their message. Is Nick DiPaolo a regular on there?
Probably. That seems like something you would do.
He's actually a real comedian, though, with a career.
Yeah.
So conservative, it's almost a fucking joke. It's like, oh, this is funny, but kind of not.
Yes, we can solve all our problems with personal responsibility. But that's not going to happen.
I mean, every fucking problem in the world could be solved with if everyone had integrity and personal responsibility, there'd be no problem. None. Because everyone would help everyone else out. They wouldn't be greedy and fucking selfish. It's interesting, though, the people who talk about responsibility and taking care of your fucking life, they've all got millions of dollars. Shit happen, and the rest of us are like, why are you drinking? Why are you fat? It's because I have to live in a world run by you assholes. You fucking responsibility people. I run 20 miles a day and I fucking pay my bills and my taxes and I run a small business. You also fuck around on your wife, drugs, and evade taxes. What kind of responsibility is that? Fuck you, you're a communist. I get it. I know, you're perfect and I suck. That's fine. You need that yin and yang in life.
We can't all be Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
Be 70 years old and jacked and only get 3 hours of sleep a night and somehow survive.
Yeah.
Make billions of dollars.
Yeah, get your kids in the business too.
Really have a guttural fascination for large sweaty men, but you know, there's nothing wrong with that. But you know,
No. Nothing to say about that at all. I find our wrestling talks on this show to be interesting.
Yeah.
I know nothing about, and you actually seem fairly passionate about.
It's like a recent. It's like one of those things where you like. It's like, oh, what's the history behind this thing, and then it just keeps going and going and going. It's like
it.
Well, because it's just a weird like. Well, because like I found the niche. Like I like NXT, but everything else kind of sucks. But there's also like, well, I mean WWE. That's the thing. Is like I'm consuming only WWE's wrestling content. Well, except for the Pro Wrestling Guerrilla DVDs I bought. Those were pretty good.
No.
But so there's like a whole other world of wrestling out there. You know, there's whole luchador stuff out there that I'm not watching. There's like all the Japan stuff I'm not watching, which is supposed to be like miles. Well, it's different, but it's supposed to. I've seen like one match, and it's very different.
Yeah.
Much more like less storyline oriented and more about like the
performance.
Yeah, the wrestling performance and stuff like that. And also like the audiences are completely different. They're not as rowdy and everything. They're like, oh, and they'll clap and shit, and then they're just like very like polite and silent the whole time.
Oh, that's different. Yeah.
And there's also other American promotions. Like there's it's called Impact Wrestling, but it used to be called TNA Wrestling. Or actually it was TNA Impact, but now it's just called Impact Wrestling. I think it's on like the Pop TV network.
Okay.
It used to be on Spike, but then they like ran out of money, but now it's back.
Oh.
But I hear good things about it, but I'm not going to like spend an extra $10 a month to look at their stuff. And then there's Ring of Honor, which is owned by Sinclair Broadcasting, and if you it's on I think it's on at like midnight on their channels, like on Sunday or something like that. But I'm never gonna like get that. But
some weird house brand for a network.
Yeah, but like a lot of guys who are popular now like go through there. It's like kind of a breeding ground for.
Oh, okay.
For like a lot of talent that
farm team.
Yeah, kind of. But yeah, and then just like the terminology that with it, it's like where it's like this combination of carny terminology and stuff like that, and then just like the great terms, like what the fuck does that mean? And like you learn about like one of my favorite ones is like, so when somebody will there'll be a match and like somebody like really hates the other person like in real life, and they decide that they're gonna like accidentally like end their career somehow.
Okay.
And then they figure out like, oh, they did that intentionally, and then they fucking fire them. And like the term they give that is calling it going into business for yourself.
Oh, I love subculture.
Basically like tabloids for wrestling are called dirt sheets.
Okay. Interesting.
It was I like that. Have you ever heard the nicknames for WrestleMania? Okay, there's one shows. That's pretty obvious.
Okay.
And the one I like is Showcase of the Immortals.
Okay. Cool.
Both coined by Vince McMahon.
Of course. It kind of has a theme. I can see an overarching theme here.
Yeah. There's like marks, heels, baby faces, all that stuff. Marks are just the people, because that was like carny term. Like they would at the carnivals they would put chalk on a guy that was like easy to on their coat that was easy to get money from, and so they're called marks.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
And then they also called smart marks, which like those are the people that are like more know more knowledge about the industry and stuff. So it's like, oh, you gotta, we can still con them out of their money, but we gotta be more savvy about it. What's some of the other shit? And then like I'm new to all this shit, so I don't want to like start using these terms like I know what the fuck I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Like the most recent one is it's something on the What Culture podcast. They talk about work rate, and I still don't know what the fuck that means. Like it means like the more you work, and it's like no, but then like somebody was talking about how it had actually meant to like what you do in the ring was like work rate, and then somebody compared it to like hustle, like in sports, like that guy just has hustle, and that's what they call work rate. No, still don't understand it.
That sounds like a combination of like entertainment terms and
yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's like news about how Raw it's the 5th time this year that they've had the lowest ratings ever for their TV show. I don't know what's like, but then they're like talking about like how that's mostly because of football.
Oh.
So I guess this is like a normal lull that they always have. So they just kind of like skate on their stuff though, because like why put forth the effort if you're just gonna lose the football every week anyways?
Get stomped by football.
And because all you have to do is like wait a couple of months, because WWE never stops. It's it's 52 shows a year. Well, football stops, so because like people are like they're talking about, because like in January you have the Royal Rumble, and then like in April you have WrestleMania. So this is supposed to be like WrestleMania season's coming up. Because they have a pay-per-view tomorrow called TLC, Tables, Ladders, and Chairs.
Oh, okay.
So it's full of a bunch of gimmick matches. So those can be fun. Like even if like mostly the show sucks, it's like at least I got to see a gimmick match.
Yeah, got to see some guy get whipped in a cage.
There's one match where like I think there's like just a guitar suspended from the ceiling. I don't know the stipulations of the match, because they were talking about the other day about how I think I get like the stipulations that you just get the guitar and win, and like it's like, wouldn't it be funner if like they have to get the guitar and smash it over their opponent to win? Which that'll probably be what happens. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, I watched the What Culture stuff, and it's just like the crazy stuff wrestling did. Because like right now they talk about the era. Right now it's the PG era, because that's how. Because like they had like in the Attitude Era, like late '90s, early 2000s, like they had like superb ratings, like the highest ratings there ever were on television for this stuff. But so at some point they're like losing out on advertisers because the show was too raunchy or whatever.
Yeah.
So they made a very conscious decision to make it more kid friendly. And so while like older fans are upset about that, the company has made way more money than they ever did. Even though the ratings are lower, the money's rolling in. Because next year they start their new contracts. So they'll get $1 billion from USA for over the next 5 years to do Raw. They'll get $1 billion from Fox, because SmackDown is moving over to Fox.
Okay. So
they'll get $1 billion for the next 5 years to run that show. And then they get like $500 million from Saudi Arabia to do one show a year over the next 10 years for them.
Wow. So no matter how bad their ratings are, they still win.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah, I like that kind of stuff. It's just weird. It's an interesting subgenre of society.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's because like it's mainstream, but it's also like niche at the same time.
That's what I was gonna say. Like, it's accessible to everyone, but it's not like for everyone. It's
yeah.
not. Some people are never gonna get it, and I'm not someone who would sit down and just watch it. but I like to hear other people talk about it because there's like a light in their eyes. Because it's not like professional sports. I understand why people talk about that. It's not really my jam, but I get it. But this is something that's like, oh, this is purely entertainment.
Yeah.
It maintains the illusion of reality, but everyone knows there is no reality to it.
Yeah. Well, that
what is called working for them, starting their own business.
Going in the business for themselves.
Yeah, unless they're actually like there is genuine hatred.
Because that's I think that's the thing that kind of switched over for me. Because like I watched it during the Attitude Era, but like just for like it was something that was on, it was entertaining.
Yeah,
I didn't really care about it. And what's new now is it's like, okay, yeah, it's like it's all scripted. So the thing is like, okay, so then what does it matter who is like the champion? Well, that's where you get into like what's interesting is sort of the political behind the scenes stuff. Because like who's champion is basically the company saying like, you're good at your job. Here's an employee of the week thing that you get to wear in your chest. So it's not meaningless for somebody to be the champion, even though it's scripted. It's like they have to do things behind the scenes and in front of the camera, and they have to be talented. They have to have the crowd behind them. Even if they have the crowd behind them, sometimes they're not given the championship. Like just because you're popular doesn't mean you're getting the championship.
Yeah.
Because if you watch the Daniel Bryan, I think there's a DVD out there like Road to WrestleMania or something like that, and like Daniel Bryan that year when he became the champion, it was like one of the things where like the fans basically like forced that upon them.
Oh, okay.
Like they didn't want to give this guy who's like 5'6" and a vegan the championship because he's like everything Vince McMahon hates.
Yeah.
But like he's really good at his job, and he's like good on the mic and all that stuff, and the fans just basically willed it into being. And it's like one of the most fantastic moments like in wrestling you'll see, where you see like fucking how many people they can cram in the Superdome, like I don't know, like 30,000 people, all chanting yes and putting their hands up at the same time. Like when some people win, it's like yeah, some people cheer and then some people boo. No, the entire fucking crowd is cheering this guy when he wins the championship at WrestleMania.
Yeah, so sometimes the crowd speaks.
Yeah. And but then also, the thing about WWE is it's really, even though it has a fan base, it really is a fan of one, and that's Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
So he wants, he makes the show essentially for himself. And that's usually why it's
nice
bad.
Guy, and that's a big part of the show. It's also a big part of reality, from what I've heard.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, is this all a show? It's like, not entirely.
If you get into the weird like shit that Vince McMahon, like what will draw his ire is so insignificant. It's insanity sometimes.
Yeah, you're just walking a minefield of like, how is this guy gonna be offended? What innocuous thing will I do to piss the boss off?
There'll be stuff like there's a bowl of candy, and if you eat the candy, it's like, oh, no, he's not gonna make it. If you nod, he doesn't like that. Just like nodding yes or no. Like if you nod, it's like, oh, no, I don't want him around.
Is there any method to this madness?
No. There's even like certain words he doesn't like, so and I don't know if it's like a weeding process where it's like, let's just see if people follow directions. Sometimes there's a method to that. Because like when a band will ask like, we want to, what do you want? And then they'll ask people like, I want like a bowl of just green M&Ms. And like if they show up and there's a bowl of just green M&Ms, they know that the people they're dealing with will follow directions. It's not just them being insane. It's just a test to see if they follow directions correctly.
Yeah, we know the guys who sat down and just picked out green M&Ms probably put the fucking stage together, fall on it. So we're not gonna what's that band? Great White, our fan base. It's just we're just not gonna murder all our fans or kill all our fans in one show.
And then I really enjoyed that NXT show I went to, and I'd like to go again sometime. Although I have to get better seat. I'll have to plan it out better next time because
Spend more money. Get
yeah.
better- Yeah.
Well, if I got the same exact seats next time, I don't think I'd ever tolerate what happened to the show I went to.
Oh, okay.
Because we are basically just watching the screen up top the whole time. We couldn't see the people in the ring because everyone was standing up.
Oh, okay.
So there was sort of an energy and a newness to it that we were able to like. But like if I ever went there again and had to do that again, I'd probably just hate wrestling and just give up on all this, bothering even paying attention to this shit.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good. It's fun to follow things. It's fun to find those things that are interesting.
And it's just always there. Like it never stops. There's no off season for wrestling, which is a good and a bad thing.
Oh, let's see. What else? Oh, do you want to hear about the Prime Minister's residence in Canada?
Sure.
Interesting story. Well, because the current Prime Minister doesn't live there, and neither have any of the last. I think it's the last 3 or 4 haven't, because it's basically an old house. It's like in a beautiful place, but it's so decrepit now. They said it would cost like 40 million Canadian dollars to rebuild it to any kind of standard. And the thing is, it's kind of small for an official residence, and it still has like window air conditioners and stuff because the house is sold. It wasn't designed around centralized heating and air conditioning. So they say it's a security nightmare because if you have a bunch of window air conditioners, anyone can knock one of those out and climb in and do whatever. So now there's this debate in Canada where they want to, do they want to spend that kind of money, or just knock it down and start over. They say it's like it's the most decrepit national leader's official residence in the modern world. and they've been talking about it for 15 years there, how bad it is, but no one wants to do anything. So the current prime minister said, I'm not even going to live there. He never moved in. He lives with his family in some other house somewhere. But it's just kind of funny that because I remember hearing similar stories about Downing Street when Thatcher was prime minister. It was like when they brought Reagan over for an official visit. He's like, "Oh, I want to go upstairs and see all the stuff with Winston Churchill." Yeah, nobody really goes upstairs anymore. Yes, we're afraid that he might fall through the floor. They since have fixed it and made it into something a little. It's a modern thing now. It's high security also, whereas before it wasn't. But that was it's like now Canada's got to deal with that. Because like our places, the White House has kind of a weird history where it has become decrepit at times, but then after 9/11, like it became this fucking nuclear-proof bomb bunker. It's like all the security people used to think was around the White House, like is now actually around the White House. Yeah, and then the people with the coolest is like the Russians. They've got the Kremlin, which actually is a Russian word that means fortress, and that's really what it is. We have the White House, like you can see it from the street and stuff. And 10 Downing Street is just like that's the Prime Minister's residence. There's nothing. It's not like super fancy or anything. But then you get into like the real weird countries, like they have palaces. And I'm sure like North Korea has some crazy like People's Palace or something.
Yeah. Or that weird hotel that never opened. It's just a weird triangle in the sky.
Yeah, strange hotel that foreigners stay there and they have people moving carts and stuff around, but like the building hasn't been finished from the top 20 floors. I thought that was I was just reading that today. I was like, that's weird. I've never thought of the Canadian Prime Minister's residence, and then to find out that it's completely decrepit and just rotting. It's like, that's crazy. And the fact that the guy who is the prime minister now lived there when his dad was prime minister, and he says, I remember it wasn't very good then, and that was years ago.
Well, I guess, yeah, he'd be the one to tear it down then if he could.
Yeah, well, his dad put the swimming pool in.
Oh.
He remembers that. But like I said, it looks cool from the outside. It's just one of those cool little Canadian cities, built around, or those little those. They have like a lot of European architecture there.
Where's the capital? Is it just Toronto, or is it Ottawa? Okay.
And that's yeah, because like their Parliament building and stuff looks like something out of England, and they have all these neat houses. But then you find out it's like, oh, it's all rotting at the seam. Just bad dental work. It just looks nice, but it's all rotten underneath. And the fact that it would cost like, you get those whopping repair bills of like $40 million or something. I don't know. I forget what the last big rehab on the White House was, but it was a lot. Because remember the ground sunk? Do you remember
did?
Yeah, the yard sunk at the White House once.
Isn't that shit all just built on a swamp anyways?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's but yeah, it sunk in. Well, it said it sunk in. They said, yeah, it's a sinkhole. We got to fill it in. But then where the grass sunk, there was a bunch of like weird square shapes and stuff. It's like, I don't think those are naturally occurring.
Oh, they're building stuff underneath the White House. We just said more
they
secret bunkers.
They have bunkers and shit under there. That they've got like the closed loop sewage system and the closed loop water system and anything you can imagine. I was watching this documentary once about the people that actually maintain the city of Washington, D.C. And it's an older city for an American city. And to go into the sewers, like, you gotta have to work on the pipes. The fucking Secret Service goes with you. It's like a security thing to go into the sewers in Washington, because they know people would just like put bombs and shit under there. I mean, there's no. But it's like weird to think like, here's this guy in a vest. He's got some wrenches. He's like, oh yeah, we got to work on this water main. And then here's like, these are like the uniform Secret Service. It's not like a bunch of guys in suits in a sewer. But yeah, these guys show up in like full tactical gear. Like, okay, let's go work on this. There's 10 guys sitting around talking on radios, and there's one guy up. This is why our government is so expensive.
Yeah. How's that Uzi?
Yeah. Well, don't let your machine gun rust in the sewer. But the thing is, the sewers are really fucking old.
Yeah.
Like bricked up. They're like bricks, built into that round. It's like, oh, this is George Washington shit here. Or something. Yeah, it's our famous president's shit here. And that was under the Capitol building, I think. But that thing was completely. Remember when Obama was president? That thing seemed to be under construction for 8 years.
Yeah.
Because it was actually going to collapse if they didn't do something to it. Because those structures were never meant to last that long. And air pollution doesn't help. And running all the data cables and everything you need now. It's insane. It's really hard on the infrastructure when it's like a plasterboard and brick building. It's like, well, we're going to run a bunch of Cat 6 cables through there. And I was like, I don't know how you're going to do that. It's like, what's behind this wall? The brick and plaster. And I mean the old plaster, like the plaster and stick kind of construction. That's Washington. But I mean, now I'm sure it's all like the Dome of Madness or whatever. I think they're serious about. Ever since 9/11, I think they actually did the security stuff that everyone used to think that they do. I remember people said like, oh yeah, they got like, what was the thing that they said? They have like anti-aircraft missiles hidden in the Hoover Dam, and like everything that's like a big government project. They said, oh yeah, they got shit there to like shoot down planes and shit. People were saying that from the 60s. They never did. 9/11. Now they do. But it's like before, because they said like on the roof of the White House, there's like big SAM missile batteries and stuff, or whatever we have to shoot down planes. They're never there. They are now.
Or Secret Service with like Stinger missiles and shit.
Yeah, like no, they never had that shit. They do now, but they didn't. Even things like water treatment plants and stuff that they had like double fences, 10-foot high fences with Constantine wire. So they got serious about a lot of that shit. Nuclear power plants used to be you could just drive right up to them fucking things. Like, hey, where do you keep the cooling pools for spent fuel rods? Oh, right over there. drive up to a nuclear power plant, they got like a barricade here, a barricade so you can't drive in a straight line.
Yeah.
It's like they never used to have that shit. It was just wide open. Hey, you guys want to come in? Look at this.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, we like it here.
Don't touch any pipes.
Yeah, some of them are really hot. Oh, we had a speaking of pipes, we had a steam pipe at work this week because our plant's all steam heat, which like that's cool. That's like in a museum somewhere. But one of the pipes that runs the steam heat, because this looks like a giant radiator built into the roof of these pipes running back and forth. And I'll tell you what, that it keeps, if it's like 15 degrees outside, that plant's 70. Like whatever that is, it works. But one of them got a hole in it, and it started leaking. But the water coming out of that fucking thing was so hot. You ever melt like nylon or plastic and hold it up in the air and it makes a zipping sound as it falls? Like, whoop, whoop,
Yeah.
you know, it's kind of a, okay, that's what that water was doing coming out of that pipe. Hear the sound, and you could see where there was a little bit of water on the floor. It looked like a moist spot, not pooled water, because 90% of the water was evaporating before it hit the floor. It's like, oh, I hope that thing doesn't cut loose. That's hotter than hell if it's doing that, because you could watch it fall, and you see the steam cloud just radiate away from it. But they got some guys up there and fixed it.
I heard it on the Giant Beast cast, so this could be a lie because sometimes Vinny likes to troll people.
Yeah.
But he was talking about like in New York, like heating's free because it's all just a big steam heating system that goes through every building.
I may or may not be true.
Because I heard something like they were talking about like, yeah, like they'll have to like open the windows in like the winter time sometimes because it's just like you can't control the heat. It's just coming in no matter what.
Yeah, that's the big steam heat's wildly efficient. But yeah, it is hard to regulate it. Like you don't just set it to a like 72 or whatever. And if it gets really cold, the colder it gets, the hotter the steam. You know, the hotter the heat.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I could imagine that was because when you have steam heat in homes, it's all those baseboard like radiators.
Yeah.
Very rarely do you see that. Very old, much older houses have that.
But there's a couple of times you can look up like steam explosions in New York where there'll just be like just it looks like a volcano's coming out of New York, and like that's what happens. Like one of those steam pipes busted, and it looks like fucking volcanoes going off.
Well, yeah, because that's the weird thing about water. Like it doesn't compress, and if you keep it enclosed where it can't evaporate, its ability to carry heat away is tremendous. But it's also its ability to be like you can have steam. It's like 2,000 fucking degrees. As long as it's under pressure and contained, it'll just carry that heat away. I mean, that's why, the Russians, on their nuclear submarines, if they thought there was a leak, they had a bunch of broom handles with no brooms on the end of them in the engineering part of the ship. And if they thought there was a steam leak, what you did was you stuck one of those handles in there, and you felt around, because if the handle got chopped off at any point, like it looked like it was cut in half by a laser or something. That's what steam leak is. You want to go feeling around for that shit. But they had so many guys losing arms and shit looking around for it, they just started bringing broom handles. Because the return loop on a coolant on a reactor is incredibly hot and under an incredible amount of force. So, yeah, you don't want to... Because sometimes you couldn't even see the leak. Because it'd blow out into the air and just vaporize immediately. But it was still like this pencil-sized hole. It was like a zone of death like that thick that would just cut anything in half that came within its... yeah, so that's how they did it. I don't know how we checked for that. I doubt our shit sprung a lot of leaks unless it crashed into another ship. I'd like to say that, but I can't be sure. But, yeah. That was a neat thing to go sit there and listen to the water zip down. Pull back there. You just see this puffs of steam in the air. This is crazy.
I learned some new things about guns from my gun channels this week.
Okay, what did we learn?
Well, my car got shot, so that was fun.
What?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Somebody shot my window. But from watching Demolition Ranch, I know it had to be at least like a BB gun, because if it was like a 20, because it's a pretty small bullet hole.
Okay.
Unless somebody was just going around with one of those things that break windows and they just hit it once and then walked away.
Because that's something important to do.
So it's pretty small, but like watching Demolition Ranch, I know a 22 will go right through a car.
Yes.
So I found no exit. So I'm assuming it must have been some sort of air rifle or BB gun, because it just a small hole, a little bit of glass across the back bench or whatever, back seat, and the entire window shattered. Stayed in place, but it shattered all the way through it.
Side window?
Yeah.
Okay.
$300 replacement. That was fun.
Fucking asshole.
Because my insurance has $500 deductible, so it's like I didn't. It's like, oh, I wish it was over $500. I get it for free.
Shoot the other windows out.
But yeah, when I brought it to the shop, the guy is there probably your back window going down? And like, I don't think so. There's like something because I have my battery pack in the passenger seat, because I just leave it there just in case. So I think he thought like there's something wrong with my windows, and I go out there and he like hits the buttons like, oh, it just completely separated from the mechanism. So I'm guessing that must have been some sort of safety feature. It's like like it just, when it shatters, it just disconnects from the thing that can roll down the window or whatever.
Yeah, because if you hit the button, the glass will just fly under pressure. Speaking of which, what kind of engine does that car have in it? 4-cylinder?
I'm not sure.
The boxer one.
I think it's the Boxer one, because they only make like 2 engines for their whole fleet.
Oh. You might be getting a notification in the mail on that.
Yeah, I've gotten some. I'll have to look at it.
A class action lawsuit about those. Might be entitled to some free shit.
Yay!
Well,
the engine light is on, so I think
the valve seals are there, or the head gasket, the valve seal, something leaks in them notoriously.
Okay, yeah, I'll have to look. I'll have to open up my, because usually when I get like a recall notice, it's like for airbags that may or may not, from it.
Kata.
Yeah, but it's like I don't think mine was that, or it'll be like some sort of like seatbelt thing. It's like, I'm not going in for this. I'll have to go find that one and see if there's.
Yeah, might be entitled to a new engine.
Because my check engine light's on, so I'd like to get that fixed for free.
Yeah. Check into it. It's the biggest settlement Subaru's had to ever pay out in their history. So.
Oh, cool. I'll have to look in that. Yeah. But yeah, so that happened. So that was really quick though. It was like 2 days later, I got a new window.
Oh, okay.
And they even had the option on because they even had the option to like they'd just come out and replace it.
Oh, is it like Safelite or somebody?
Yeah. Because I went through my Geico app, so that worked pretty well. That did pretty, but had to call the cops too. And it's like, yeah, somebody shot my window. And they're like, did you find a BB? Like, no. It's like, are there kids nearby? I was like, yeah, there's a school nearby. So I was basically, I wasn't really reporting anything. It's like, hey, in case other shit's happening in the neighborhood, here's a thing to follow.
By the way, yeah.
I had to call like the records department. Like, I was looking through all the non-emergency numbers, and that's the only one that was like to report property damage where there's no witnesses.
Yeah, it's basically a nice way of saying they don't give a fuck, but they'll send somebody out.
Well, no, they didn't send anybody out. They just logged it in.
Oh, okay, yeah. Around here, they'll send people out if it's property damage to your home where it might have been a break-in, they'll want to evaluate that.
Yeah.
Mom and Dad were here, that's why I had the cops coming to the door. Because people were breaking into cars all over the neighborhood. Somebody got their gun stolen. It's like, yeah, it's brilliant. Leave that in your fucking car. I think my wife, because we're on an app called Neighborhood, my wife said that to the guy, and he got real shitty. It's like, you left a fucking loaded handgun in your car, and someone stole it. What are we supposed to do? Applaud? Good job. This is why we can't have nice things, because people do stupid shit like that. And the cops were like, "How'd you know about that? You guys, is he telling people that?" I said, "Yeah, it's on the fucking internet. He'll show you the conversation. 500 people know that."
But no, through what I learned new about guns is that I thought barrel length increased accuracy because of like the rifling adds more spin with more barrel length, but I guess not.
Okay.
What the length of the barrel does is it increases muzzle velocity.
Yeah.
So that's why the bull pups are so coveted, is because it just has a longer barrel and a shorter package, but it has the same velocity as an M16 or whatever.
Yeah.
So then I was like looking into all the different bull pups they had out there, which most of them are like, it's not very good things about the bull pups.
Well, I mean, you fucking go deaf shooting them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you're shooting at a range, you have ear probe.
Oh, even then, it's going off right next to your head, even with hearing protection.
But like those one, like almost every bullpup has to. Well, I guess the whatever the British one is, they like if you're a left-handed shooter, fuck you.
Hot fucking brass.
No, you're just not going to shoot left-handed.
Oh, okay.
Because like with an M16, it's far enough forward that you're just gonna have to deal with that. But no, like if you were shooting left-handed with their one, it would just be right into your cheek. There's no because your cheek well would hold right where the ejection port is. Like there's no.
Yeah, so eyeball out. Yeah.
And then, but like the
what are they using? The Enfield Mark 12 or something?
no, they have I can't remember. It's like the LAR 85 or something like that. I think they're switching to a new one, but
yeah.
Or they just have a combination of stuff.
And they got the Israeli one that they sell here now, the Torva.
Tavor, yeah.
Tavor, yeah.
I hear relatively good things about that, but
I guess it's made for small people though. I've heard it's real fumbly because it's, if you got big hands, it's kind of a small gun.
Is it interesting trigger guard where it's just a giant handle? There's no like bottom of the trigger guard. It's just like a floating trigger there.
Yeah.
I hear there's recent designs to it that have made it better.
Oh, okay.
Like I mean, it's fully functional as is, but they're just kind of little things that are better now. So yeah, like the FAMAS, that one had has like a dummy extractor on it, so you could switch it to left-handed, and you just like switch the extractor over to the other side. But it's not really something you could like do in the field. But this new one I saw, it's Desert Tech. They have a new bullpup that the Forgotten Weapons guy like reviewed.
Oh, okay.
That's kind of interesting because it has an interesting ejection system. So like usually there's something like you can swap the ejection port. It's basically on the buttstock. There's usually like a thing you can flip around. So here the little tabs on the side of the ejection port, like one of the tabs is actually the ejection port or the ejector.
Okay.
One of those tabs. So you just like flip it around and then that's how it ejects. There's like nothing else to change. You just flip these tabs and that changes the side of the gun. But also the way it ejects is it kind of has like a little thing that holds the ejected shell for a while. And then when the next round goes off, it kicks it out, but it kicks it out forward. So you can actually just shoot it left-handed no matter how it's set up, and it's not going to eject the brass right in your fucking face. And this one's it's a 308. Which they were trying to like debate like why they made it that one, and I guess it's just because like, oh, make it a big enough bullet and then we'll downscale from there rather than trying to upscale.
Okay.
Because they did have like a lot of problems feeding stuff when they had all different kinds of rounds, but like they like to shoot military surplus rounds, and like it wasn't liking any of that stuff.
Yeah.
There's like they had to like adjust the gas system and stuff like that a bunch of times. To the point they just had like the best way to get stuff shooting was just have the gas thing fully open, so there's like no like recoil reduction at all. It was just like the full
jackhammer into your shoulder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that stuff's pretty interesting.
I always like that French FAMAS.
Yeah,
It looks futuristic.
yeah.
I think it came out in the 70s or something.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'd say like that at the end of the video, even though like this the Desert Tech was pretty cool and like the Divorced are pretty cool, like they still say that the FAMAS is still the best of all of the bullpups. But they said that that thing had like an 8-year development cycle, so it was like out of all the bullpups, it's had the longest development cycle, so that's probably why it's still the best bullpup.
Yeah. They don't sell those here on.
Oh, they don't? They don't have a civilian version of that? Huh.
Well, I think it's licensed through a knockoff company.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's the thing is like I've always wanted an AK-47, but not because I like an AK-47. I want a Kalashnikov with the Soviet markings on it. I just think that's cool. They're totally out. You can't buy them. But you know, you go and talk to people. And it's like, oh, we got the Vector from South Africa. It's like, yeah, okay. I don't. There's nothing about that seems cool to me. I just want a Kalashnikov from the Soviet times. Not even probably ever going to shoot it. I just think it's cool.
Well, that the one. There's one story that came across there's like that Galil AK-47 variant that's supposed to be like one of the best. It's like an Israeli AK-47. It's supposed to be like one of the best one.
Yeah.
And so that guy that designed that, no joke, his original name before he changed it to Galil was Balashnikov.
Oh. That's funny. Balashnikov.
I saw some stuff about the FNFAL and stuff.
Those are cool.
The people, I guess it had problems with accuracy, and they're making fun of it. I guess because they put the sighting system on like they call it two wobbly bits of the gun, and that's why the accuracy on it kind of sucks.
They're just a nice big .308 caliber rifle.
Yeah,
that's all they are. I mean, yeah. How do you? I know you can put scope. I know a guy who loves those things, and you can put different sighting systems on them, and they're fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, the stuff it comes with, they're just big. They're just big-looking guns. It's big magazine, big long, stretched out. I always thought it looked cool. I mean, that's like '60s technology, but.
Oh, that was the other interesting thing about that Desert Tech gun is that the scope, they have this kind of this little small scope on it, but it's more like a reflex scope.
Yeah.
And it mounts directly to the barrel.
Oh, okay.
Like
wow.
how you like put it all together, like when you take the barrel off, the optic goes with it. So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, that keeps it in one place.
Yeah.
That's sort of cool. Desert Tech. I'm gonna check that out.
Yeah, just look at the one on the Forgotten Weapons one, because I guess they have a separate range channel, and that's where I figured that out. And when they're his video where he's just like just kind of analyzing the history of it and stuff like that, it's like 20 minutes long, but then when he goes to the range video, it's like a fucking hour and 20 minutes, because like they're just kind of going back and forth doing the gas systems. Like, oh, this is pretty in depth. Yeah. Because I'm just used to him doing like little history lessons and stuff like that. And it's like, oh, here's this new weapon that's up for auction. Like, we can't shoot it.
That's funny. Yeah, I like the one where he is doing, like, he's wearing the white gloves, like he's at an auction house.
Yeah.
Guns that are like so old. Like, they only made 4 of these.
We also learned like the inception of the channel. Like, well, I guess it was a web blog at first.
Mm-hmm.
But he had like a friend in France that he had all these designs and stuff, because I guess there's a bunch of militaries, instead of like just buying all new weapons, they wanted to, like for like the Lee Enfield or the M1 Garand, they wanted to have these conversion systems, like to convert them to semi-auto or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like, so they designed all this stuff. And I think only one thing was implemented. I think like the Lee Enfield had something like that. Those, well, they're already semi-auto, but I guess more like magazine fed or some conversion kit like that.
Oh, okay.
And the guy died, and the family just like threw away all the designs because they didn't know what the fuck it was, and so that's when he started the channel as sort of like a historical preservation of like all these weapon designs and stuff like that.
Huh.
Not like the Mosin Nagant test rifle where it has like this little, has like this weird. It's like a gas. Well, it's like a gas gauge, but not really. It's meant to like take a hit of the gas, and then like you put like this piece of metal in there, and then how far it squishes the metal, like that gives you like the gas pressure.
It's a nice. That's a good 19th century solution.
But it had its own measuring system
Yeah.
because like you can't just like convert to like cubic centimeters or whatever. It's like lead meters or some shit like that.
Yeah, it sounds again very 19th century. Like we can make it do this, but we can't standardize it. So it's our own scale,
Yeah.
which is that's how they used to do things because material science was very limited back then.
And then I watched the Demolition Ranch. They had a $200 challenge where they went to a pawn shop, and everybody had $200 to buy a gun.
Okay.
So one guy bought an SKS, and then talked him into getting a sword with it too, because I guess it didn't come with the flip up sword, or not sword, I guess the bayonet attachment, and because it wasn't on there originally, and he talked him into getting into it somehow, and it came mounted with a rifle that was cocked at 45 degrees, so it was like an X when you look through the scope.
Okay, that's weird.
And like they said something like the guy who like pawns those, like that's how he sights them in. It's like, okay.
Well, everyone has their own technique, I guess.
And then the Matt, he got some like Spanish like pocket gun.
Bursa or something?
Yeah, I don't know. It was like a really small pocket gun. It was like so small, like he was afraid he's going to shoot his fingers off because if he extended his fingers completely, they go up to the barrel.
That's a really good design there.
It fired like a weird round, like a 6.5 millimeter round.
Oh wow, yeah, it's almost East Block pistol ammunition.
And then the other guy, he got like a Mossberg. Oh, what was it called? Like a Maverick shotgun for like $200.
Never heard of those.
It's a Mossberg, so it's supposed to be
it's a
quality.
Mossberg shotgun, yeah.
And then they had a little competition. I like that at some point the guy who bought the SKS, he was actually an Army sniper, and like he was trying to shoot the target with the scope that was on there, and it wasn't hitting it at all. But like I guess there's like optics, or I guess there's like iron sights that you can look through like just underneath the scope, and so he started shooting with that. It's like, oh yeah, I'll hit it if you point it at the right place.
Yeah, point it at the target, it'll hit it. Yeah, I know some people that have had some weird guns. This one lady at work, she was into shooting her pistol, and it was I forget what kind of gun it was, but it shot a Makarov 9mm round.
Huh.
It's like, where do you find bullets for that? It's like, oh, they're real cheap. It's all Russian surplus shit.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's an interesting choice. It's like, yeah, they don't have hollow points for it. It's all just ball ammunition, but yeah, it works. Some kind of little gun. She was a woman, and she had smaller hands, and it fit in her hands well, and she just liked it for that reason. She was like, yeah, you gotta. Like, I can buy it. Like, she shot it all the time, I guess. That's why she got it. She could buy all this, this steel coated
Like crate of ammunition.
Yeah, it's just Makarov 9mm ammunition. Huh, that's interesting. It's just much lower pressure than a 9mm Parabellum.
Yeah.
The Parabellum, the shell has pitched walls in, where the Makarovs are straight walls.
Huh.
So it's single stack magazine with a release on the bottom. Very European gun. It's like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Like, you ever just consider a Glock or something? No, she likes the way that fits her hands. So. And she didn't like revolvers because she didn't like working the trigger on them. I mean, she had this whole thing worked out. I was like, okay, cool. That's just a weird choice. I never would have thought of that. But if you like it, it works.
Also learned things about modern revolvers, which I didn't know.
Okay.
So I finally like figure out like the thing where like if you have a Colt single action army, like why you only load 5 in it.
Mm-hmm.
Because basically the firing pin is on the hammer,
Yep.
and so like if you just like poke the hammer when it's down and there's a bullet in front of it, like you can just hit the back of the wood, hit it back with a piece of wood, and it'll just go off.
Yep.
So that's why I only carry 5. But modern revolvers, they have like it's called like there's a transfer bar and there's some other system, and like the firing pin isn't on the hammer.
No.
So like with the transfer bar, there's like this little bar that will come up, and depending on how you handle it, the bar will come up or not. And so the hammer will hit that transfer bar, and then the firing pin is actually like on the frame in between the hammer and the cylinder, and so
And my Smith and Wesson are.
and so like it'll hit that transfer bar. The transfer bar transfers the energy into the firing pin. The firing pin hits the back of the case and it fires the gun. So
Yep.
So I learned about that.
Yeah, I think only in the classics does the Smith and Wesson have the firing pin on the hammer, and even then there's a safety feature inside there where it won't, the hammer will not strike the primer,
Yeah,
even unless it's like takes a full stroke.
yeah,
To do that, it's like because a lot of the 41s and the 44 Magnums from the 60s and 70s, they still had the firing pin on the hammer, but it wouldn't just slap against the back of it.
And then I saw. So the guy who made the Chiappa Rhino, that's one where it fires from the bottom, where so it has a really low bore axis or just like no bore axis.
Yeah, none.
So it's all his first design of a gun, which is fucking weird as shit because it basically looks like a 1911 with like an underbarrel revolver at the front end of it.
Okay.
So it kind of has like this sort of a 1911 look, and then at the front end just looks like a really small revolver. But because the way he did it that way, it had a really low bore axis. So it's like that's what that guy was all about, making low bore axis. What means like it only has like a 2-inch barrel on it though.
Yeah.
But it was meant for competition stuff. That's that's why he made the bore axis as low as it could get. But he had that on Forgotten Weapons because they didn't make a whole lot of those, but it was an early design. I'll have to look up to see what it's called, and then I'll send it to you.
Okay. It wasn't the Mateba auto revolver, was it?
Yeah, it might have been that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just a very weird. Yeah, it's got a revolver handle, but it looks like an automatic, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's a very strange profile.
Yeah, it almost looks like a thing with an underbarrel attachment to it, and it's a revolver.
Yeah, that Chiappa's a weird looking gun. Never fired one. It's strange looking. Wasn't Chiappa? They just like manufacture strange stuff.
I don't know.
3-barreled shotgun.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah.
Breakover. Yeah, so it's like it's like we're gonna just be different. Our niche is gonna be different.
What are they? Like some? Because there was like weird gum companies that come out of like South Africa.
They're Italian.
Italian? Okay.
Yeah, they're part of.
Oh yeah. Because he covered the history of that guy, and like his family were like a baking company, and so they had like these giant machines to like do baking goods, and so that's how he became like a mechanical engineer, and then his hobby was to like making guns and stuff, and so at some point he like converted some of the factory to making guns, but they're also making like baking goods and shit like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's because Beretta used to make other things too. I think. I mean, Lamborghini was a tractor manufacturer, so
Yeah.
and they might be going back into that.
And Daewoo makes everything.
Yes, and Daewoo is just is the Korean version of a Japanese karetsu.
Because I also saw that the Daewoo, it was like a combination of an AR-15 and an AR-18.
What's an AR-18? I'm not familiar with that term.
It was like it was basically an AR-15, but it was made with like stamped materials and stuff like that. It was designed to be made with like, yeah.
Okay.
So it was like a combination of that stuff, but really it looked like an MP5. Like it had a collapsible stock like an MP5 and stuff like that. So it was like an AR-15 MP5 almost.
Yeah.
Like even had like the charging handle like on the side, like the way the MP5 does. Because there was no buttstock, so it didn't. So the spring didn't go into the buttstock, so it was like this double spring that was like in the top, like of the whole like bolt carrier assembly or whatever.
Oh, okay. I've never seen one of those. Never even heard the term.
Yeah, it's like one of the Forgotten Weapons one. It's like Daewoo AR-15 AR-18 combination thing.
Oh, okay. Oh yeah, that is a weird looking thing. Oh yeah, it was made by Armalite and Lee Enfield also. Those. Huh. Yeah, they're pretty scarce. Not many of them made.
Well, and also they didn't make it. Well, the one he had at the auction, they had to have an extended barrel on it to be able to like importable without a special license or whatever.
Oh, you didn't have to have an SBR stamp then, yeah. Oh, that's cool.
So yeah, it's the
British, always like those. What was that? The stamped weapons.
like the grease gun and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, they're. I think they're bullpup before. This one they currently have was a stamped metal, and it was very heavily criticized because they had a lot of problems with it. But they were just doing it to cut costs.
Was that the one they were making in the 50s? So he also has a video about that one.
There was one that was terrible. I don't know if it was in the 50s or 60s, but they almost like the British government almost said, "Fuck you, we're going with Armalite." Terrible.
Because yeah, there's something he did on it. Was like an EN2 or something like that, and it was like one of the bullpups, and he said ultimately it got killed because of political reasons. Because back then it was like NATO was trying to figure out like what round we're gonna use, and everybody wanted to use their own round. So yeah. I think I used like some 7mm British round or whatever.
280 British. It was intermediate powered.
Yeah.
Wasn't as hard hitting as a 308, but a little more powerful than our standard round. But yeah, that's always a nightmare. The Japanese did that stupid shit. Oh, it was when they standardized it to the 7625 that it had a lot of problems.
Oh.
Yeah, it was a terrible gun. UK and Canada used it though. We've never embraced those. Of course, we've never embraced really any kind of change because we're still basically using an M16, right?
Yep.
So
unless you're special forces, then you just whatever. Just
yeah, whatever the best shit you can find or whatever. Use a grease gun.
I mean, they've tried. I mean, there's been several like trying to make replacements over the year, but they always have the same thing. It's like they want to replace everything with one gun, and then that just never works out.
Yeah, it's like the plane that does everything.
Yeah.
You want a vertical takeoff, air superiority / ground attack plane that can also shoot down satellites and fight aliens? Well, it's gonna be expensive.
Because they're trying to replace the SAW right now with the what's it called? It's like the something IR, and it's basically just an M16 with a 30-round mag.
Okay, that doesn't sound like an adequate replacement for this.
No, because the whole thing about the SAW is you got 100 rounds to shower people with.
Never fired a SAW, but it doesn't sound like that would be a good replacement for a SAW. I've heard about them.
I mean, it would be more like, always like maneuverable and like for indoor stuff, like yeah, but like if you just have this thing that has a 30 round mag, then you just have an M16.
Yeah.
Like every M16 has a 30 round mag. Like this isn't really an adequate replacement for it.
We're gonna make a support rifle holds 30 rounds. Fucking have that. If you're doing stuff indoors, use a Benelli.
That's what I like about the saw is it's surprisingly light for how big it is. Like that's where I like you can really whip that thing around.
Yeah.
Because you can fire that thing like standing and stuff like that. You don't. It's meant to be fired from a like a a position where you can set up the bipod and stuff like that. But you can whip that thing around.
Over backwards if you have to fire it.
No, because it's just firing a 5.56. So
Right.
you can even like there's a well to shove M16 mags in it. So you can fire it both with the.
That's right. That's one's belt and magazine fed.
Yep.
I remember there was something unique about it. I think the next time the U.S. military replaces its main gun, it'll be with a Gauss rifle or a laser. Well, but see, that's what a lot of people don't realize because they it was like, oh, all these other countries have cool guns. It's like, yeah, and they're trying to arm 50,000, 4.5 million, plus an extra 20 million in case World War III breaks out. When you're looking at replacement costs, you have to consider those factors.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, the French have a cool sci-fi gun, and and they can probably be updated if they want to. But yeah, it's like, oh, the Germans have the best equipment. It's like, yeah, they're arming 15,000 people. They're prohibited by treaty from having an army any larger than whatever the number is. I like to hear those debates. It's like, everyone's shit looks better than ours. It's like, yeah, well, everything we do is fucking 10 times as much. We have a larger standing army than the Chinese, okay? This isn't like we're going to build 5 guns out of gold and just twirl them around in the air and show everyone how cool they are. Things actually have to work because there's oil in them in our hills.
I mean, every M16 I use worked. I mean, the only problem I ever had is really with is operator error. Like, oh, I didn't put the magazine all the way in, or I didn't pull back all the way on the charging handle, and I get some weird kind of feed going on there. That's like, but that always happened in practice.
Yeah.
It's like once it came to the test, like, I was like, I always had my shit down. So it's like, all right. I fucked up back there. I was like, all right, just got to make sure I got this stuff right.
I'm simply a civilian. Every gun I've ever loaded and fired worked. So I have a Rock River, M forgery or whatever they call it. And it's worked every fucking time I shoot it. But I'm also not shooting surplus ammunition. I'm not shooting NATO ammunition. I'm shooting the actual caliber it was meant to shoot, and even though it does have a Wildy chamber and can shoot either. So yeah, for the 500 times I've shot my gun, it's always worked.
And I've shot stuff that I have no idea how many rounds has been put through it.
Mine has had probably 500 rounds put through it.
Mine's probably had, the ones I've used probably had thousands of rounds put through it.
And mine's for sale if anyone wants to buy it. I can't afford to shoot it anymore, and I'm getting into kit bashing, so I'm going to need to raise a lot of capital, special model stuff. So if anyone wants to, if any other fat ass wants to buy my AR-15 and go defend the Constitution, it's for sale, because this fat ass is not doing that.
Well, sell it up. What's your pit, or what's all the highlights of it?
What? Oh, what's a Rock River Arms? It's got a chrome Wildy chamber in it, so you can fire either. You can fire military surplus shit, or you can fire nice 223 ammunition for it.
Oh, that was a term I heard during when they were testing that bullpup. They call it a dog food,
Yeah.
where you just have a bunch of different ammunition. It's like, you can feed it dog food.
Yeah. You can fire all that nasty corrosive surplus shit through it, or you can buy nice bullets because it's a nice gun. It's got an EOTech holographic sight that takes 2 AA batteries, not the weird fucking ABC 123 battery. It's got a flip-up sights. It's got 20, 30 round magazines. It's got a Viking tactical sling on it. It's collapsible stock. It's called the Entry Tactical. It's what the DEA and the FBI use. Actually, that gun, that specific gun, not just in the style of flyer. So, I guess if you need all that shit, there it is. It's a fun gun to shoot. Very reliable. Never had any problems with it. It's easy to take apart. Easy to clean. It's fun to strip down to all its core components because it's neat to see how all that stuff works together. I've never had one feed failure or one jam out of it at all. The current EOTech site has not been sighted in, so you'd have to do that.
That's fun.
Yeah, it's, I guess that's your thing. I did it once, and then something went wrong with the site, and because weirdly enough, the company that makes EOTech is 3 miles from my house, and I just walked in with the site and was like, "Hey, this thing fucked up. Oh, we'll get you a new one." Like they didn't even. We'll get you a new one. So yeah, that's. I've been trying to sell it for 2 years. Nobody wants it. So. There it is. It's an AR-15.
Well, I would buy it if I had the money, but I know what those things cost.
Yeah, it's kind of silly. I don't regret it, but I don't need it anymore.
And I wouldn't shoot it. I'd shoot it
Yeah.
once and then I'd be done with it.
Kind of what I did. It's like, well, this works. It's really accurate. Oh, it's also got a 2-stage trigger, which is nice. That's fun.
What's a 2-stage trigger?
Got noticeable take up in it, so you know if you just shoot because it's a single shot.
Yeah.
Gun, of course, and when you're shooting it, it's got a lot of take up in the trigger, so you know almost exactly when it's going to drop.
Oh, okay.
Take up, take up, take up, and then you're just getting ready and hold your breath and boom, and it's a really accurate fucking gun. I mean, for an AR-15, for a semi-automatic rifle, it's pretty accurate.
Yeah, I would like to shoot that like at a big range, cause like I never shot them, cause I only got you had to be a sergeant to shoot an M4 during qualification. So I never got to use one of those because it seemed like anybody who had an M4, like either they didn't take care of that shit or they were really bad shots. But it seemed like everybody had trouble shooting with the M4, and I bet it's because they were muscling it.
Yeah.
Because the thing about long range shooting is you don't even use your arms. You just position your body, like don't move your arms to the target. Don't move your gun to the target. Move your body to the target and fire.
Yeah. That's what I was doing when we sighted it, and it was at Sand Creek in Michigan, and we just fucked around with a sighting scope and just a screwdriver. It's like, there it is. After about 10 shots, it was like bullseye, bullseye. Okay, move it out further, and okay, raise it up 1. Ah, bullseye. Okay, we're done. This is. Can we do like fucking rapid fire? And the range guy was like, no, you can't do any of that. Now, I will say I only fired it a few times with the 30-round magazine just to see if it would do it. But mainly to shoot it, I used the 10-round magazine.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a lot more... It seems to shoot better with a 10-rounder. I don't know why. It just did.
Was it just like an ergonomics thing?
It's an ergonomics thing. It's a feed thing, too. It seems to...
Like, imagine, like, because if the magazine wasn't in the way, you can kind of, like, have your arm closer together or whatever.
Yeah, I was shooting it off a rest. I mean, I just basically held it against my arm and just kind of pulled it.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's what I was doing.
Yeah, because when we have a 30-round mag, it sticks down there pretty far.
I'm not a big fan. 30-round magazines are fucking heavy, too.
Yeah.
Because I was doing it standing up and shit, and I much preferred the 10-round. But then again, I was just trying to get it to be accurate.
Yeah.
We couldn't do like rapid fire and shit. They said, well, we'll wait till these people go away or whatever. And then the Border Patrol agents were there qualifying with their guns. And the one lady almost shot the guy in the foot. And then everyone came out. I was like, oh, okay, time to go. I got my $10 worth coming. I don't want the Border Patrol agent to shoot us by mistake. It was funny, though, because Border Patrol agents were all hanging out back with, this was when me and Phil were there, and they were talking to us. They were like, that's a cool gun. Where'd you get that? It's like, gun store. Oh, that looks really nice. Can I look at that? Sure, go ahead. It's like, man, I wish we had these. It's like, from, what are you guys, Canadian border guards? What do you need this shit for? you just yell loudly at them, they'll be like, "Okay, I'm sorry." Maybe down south you need that heavy shit.
Cheap ones I'd almost want to get on a goof is like a Mosin Nagant. There's even a company called like Mosin Crate, where you just send them $200, and like when they get a Mosin Nagant in, they'll just send them a random one to you.
Yeah, that would be cool. Now, see, that kind of shit, I might get more traction out of that, just for the weird factor of it. It's like shooting guns from the last century today.
And they say that and Mosin Nagant ammo is cheap as shit too. It's like it's some 7.62R or something. I don't know what that is, but you can just get like
the weird
surplus one that you can just apparently just get really cheap. Like just buy a crate of it. And I saw another video on the Ruger Mini 14, which is kind of interesting, where it's like Ruger just took the M14 and made it cheaper in 5.56, and like they said it's like here's all they did to make things cheaper, because I guess Ruger's really good at what do you call it? Where it's like a mold. What do you call that?
Oh, investment casting.
Yeah, and like I guess they're really good at that, and like so not everything is machined, but like they'd cast it, and then like the parts that need machined, that they would machine it afterwards, so they can make it cheaper and quicker, and then it basically functions just. It doesn't shoot a 7.62, but it's a 5.56, and it basically functions like an M14. But
I wanted to get one of those in stainless steel with red furniture because I thought it was cool. See, I like the kind of gun because that actually was like a rifle.
yeah,
That got the fucking pistol grip. I'm not a big fan of the pistol grip. That's actually more like a rifle. I like rifles. And the Mini 14 is like that. And the stainless steel with red furniture, it's really cool. That's like $1,500 or something.
really.
Oh yeah, they're expensive.
What made it? Was it the red? Oh, the stainless steel. Okay.
Polished stainless steel. I mean,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It was just a gag gun almost.
Oh, okay.
Oh, look at me. It was one of those deals. But yeah, I've always been fascinated with the Mauser bolt action, like an old school one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've always because somebody had one of those once, and I think they got it for like next to nothing because everyone's copied that for a long time. But I was just sitting there playing with it, like, this is so fucking cool. Really is amazingly simple, straightforward, and always does exactly what it's supposed to. Because I was like trying to make it pulling on it. Like, it always works. This is really cool. But yeah, I've always been. I have a receiver and stuff for a Mauser, but it's like I want to get the really old ones because they got more streamlined as they went along.
Huh.
The older ones are like just real clunky, big piece of metal that some dude. It looked like someone just sat down in a machine shop and machined it out. Oh wow, this is perfect. I can see why this works. But then there's a bunch of cheap shit Mausers too that I don't like. I like the one where it's like the bolt looks like something somebody welded the little looks like they welded a chrome ball to it like it's a big chunky handle. All aesthetics with me. I don't care how it really works, but I think big heavy guns are always fun to shoot. Especially that old shit where it's all metal. Ever seen them thread and what's that called? When they thread and rifle a barrel on like an industrial scale for like military weapons for World War II or the mass-produced stuff. Oh, it's so insane how fast it is. It's like you think looking down that, it's like, oh, that's a real thoughtful process. It's like, nope. it's just fast and vicious. That stuff's cool. A product of, the last era.
Oh, I saw Dunkirk too. That was pretty good.
Yeah, that was a good movie.
I like the time dilation stuff where it's like the 3 different stories are occurring at different time lengths and they kind of bring them all together. That was pretty neat.
Yeah.
So it was a very fucking Christopher Nolan thing.
Yeah. Me and Grayson went to the theater and watched that.
Yeah, I like Tom Hardy. Like you don't even know it's him the whole fucking movie. Like, it's just, I landed on the beach and burnt my plane. And then the Germans captured me.
I like it when he runs out of gas, and you're like, well, those guys on the beach are fucked.
Yeah.
It's a dive bomber, and then the plane just like flies around and comes back with no engine and shoots him down, which would, you know, make him practically invisible. You wouldn't hear the prop conner. Didn't see that coming.
And what the fuck was that boat made out of that you could just shoot through it?
Oh, it's probably like sheet steel or something.
Huh. I figure like a boat like that would be more heavy duty, but you know, what do I never shot a boat before, so
You gotta cut weight. You know, it's the same thing with a car. You don't want to use a bunch of fuel to move it along. Especially that was like a fishing boat or something.
yeah. Oh, well, let's think about buoyancy. It's like it depends how you design it. You can be as heavy as possible. It doesn't matter because it'll be displaced. But you know, I don't make boats. So.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Could have just been an effective movie prop.
Yeah. It's like this will be cool.
Yeah, because I don't. Yeah, that's maybe the guns in World War II didn't have that kind of velocity and hit power where they just knock clean holes right through the side of their ship, or maybe they would. I caught up on some Doctor Who recently.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've because I hadn't seen any with Jodie Whittaker from what was that show called? Christchurch, or what was the one where she was the detective?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
I
haven't seen her in anything else before.
It was her and David Tennant were in it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Broadchurch.
Yeah, and then they did an American version of it with David Tennant. Not her, but he was an American in that one. That one wasn't as good as the British one. The British one was better. So it's like, oh, I remember her from like the kind of I called it the British True Detective. It was sort of dark stuff, and then it's like, oh, she's Doctor Who now, because the last I knew it was Peter Capaldi, and we talked about it once, and then I kind of looked up some reviews, and it's like, oh, this is like Star Wars. This is like The Last Jedi. It's like everyone's sharply divided and angry. The people who like the show are PC weirdos, transgender freaks or something, and then the people that hate the show are just, you know, these people are just
Incel Nazis.
yeah, the same people over here that do that. So I was like, well, fuck it, I'm gonna watch it and see what I think. I selected 3 episodes and watched them, and it wasn't bad, but I see what they're trying to do though, because it reminded me of like the Hartnell era, like the first Doctor, where they actually had historical adventures in human history.
Yeah.
And it was kind of played up. They were called, what did they call them back then? The pseudo-historicals or whatever. It was almost like the Doctor and his companions were just sort of there passively watching. It's like, oh, this is what these people did, and this is why this happened. And then they might have to change something because some villain was doing something. It's like, that's what it reminded me of when I was watching. It's like, oh, some of this, like the Rosa Parks episode and the one about Pakistan, it's like, oh, they're just going back into points in history.
Yeah.
With more of a modern, like,
lens.
Yeah, kind of that. What would you say, like propaganda?
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, the Rosa Parks one. Yeah.
Yeah, there seemed to be a little bit of propaganda in there and a little bit of embellishment, story maybe. But yeah, all in all, it's like, oh, this isn't horrible. I don't know why everyone's divided. It's not great. It's not like David Tennant or Tom Baker good, but it's not bad. But I know this.
And I'm not sure like if it's a new showrunner or not, because like usually
Yes.
okay, so yeah, some growing pains that gotta go in there.
Yeah,
But they made good episodes, so I'm sort of confident in what they do next.
yeah, it's. I mean, Doctor Who's something I tap into, and then kind of like, okay, I've had enough.
I really like the new rendition of the theme. It's like darker,
Yeah,
like heavier.
it seems like they're trying to do something. But,
Or,
yeah,
I mean, like the theme song. Did I say theme? I mean the theme song. The opening.
yeah, the opening theme's a very organic, like clouds with lightning. On it.
Yeah. Well, that's fine. But yeah, I just really like the dun 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 dun. Just a harder, heavier kind of, but also kind of muted too. I don't know. It's weird. I like it.
It's pretty much been the same theme ever since it started.
Yeah, but they just like make slight changes to it.
But yeah, I would have to say like a lot of the episodes I saw. Well, I picked 3 and watched them, so I haven't watched them all yet. But I'd say this like kind of reminds me of like the very first Doctor Who from the early '60s. It's like, oh, these are like historical journeys they're taking. Now I know some of them don't do that, and they're strictly monsters and things like that.
Yeah.
I didn't watch any of those. So, but I say that the historical, the pseudo historical things they did were like kind of interesting.
And this time around it isn't just like one companion, it's like a group, which is kind of like, was that Tom Baker? Did he run around with a crew of like 3 people?
I think he did it one time, 2 or 3.
So, wondering if that was kind of like a throwback to that in some way. Or...
I'm not sure. I didn't know Tom Pertwee was supposed to be on the ship that got sinking the Bismarck. I've been doing like a lot of because I was comparing and contrasting because some of the older stuff I have on DVD. Those awful expensive DVD Doctor Who collections I bought a long time ago, where it's like the transfer's terrible. There's no bonus material, but they are the original episodes. And
I heard something like there's some like seasons of Doctor Who that just don't exist anymore because they shot them on tape and they just shot over the tapes or something like that.
They recovered. There's some of them from the which era would it be? Hold on, Ro. Got my notes here. I don't have my notes here. Oh, there were some of them from the second Doctor that were lost like that, but they kind of pieced them back together. Not all of them. Some of them were lost, but it wasn't a season. It was a couple episodes.
Oh, okay.
And but people were that watched them on VHS and recorded them. They like put the call out in the 80s and 90s, like, if you have these episodes, please contact me. We'd like to transfer these because we lost them. But yeah, there's some of them from the Peter Troughton era where they just lost the episodes. Yeah, because sometimes you'll watch those and it'll like stop and there'll be the 3 characters and it'll be a still frame and they did the dialogue again, but there's no like, what's going on? Why is this? Did the movie stop and the audio keep playing?
Oh, because they had the audio track separate and that was still around, but the video track wasn't.
Or they had to re-record the audio track.
Oh yeah, too. Yeah.
They did that, but yeah, it wasn't whole seasons. But it was a few of them.
It was something they were talking about, like how cheap companies can be with. It's about video games and like how some games are just lost to history because like nobody like decided to back up all that code that they wrote. Like, and now it's just gone forever. Like a lot of Japanese companies have stuff like that. It was like on to the next thing. And there's no like preservation effort whatsoever.
What's new?
So like they're talking about like with they're talking about Doctor Who and like, you know, companies to save money, you just like re-record over this videotape, and it's like, oh, we'll just re-record over this Doctor Who episode.
That's a weird property for the BBC though, because it's like it's one of their tentpole shows because it has massive international as well as massive domestic popularity, but it's really been treated like offhand. You know, sometimes they're very negligent with it. Like, because they always thought it was like, well, this isn't going to be reviewed. No one's going to want to see this, and it was shown at weird times, like it would like 5:30 p.m. Because remember, each episode was like a 4-parter. It was like 24 minutes or 22 minutes.
Huh.
So yeah, the Doctor Who episodes are not like how we watch them. It's an entire episode. But the way they were shooting them and putting them out for a long time, it was on 4 days a week in 24-minute increments.
Huh.
Because you know, because sometimes if you watch some of the older, especially like the John Pertwee ones and some of the Tom Baker ones, like they'll see something stunning and then you'll almost hear the title music play and then it'll continue on because they had to edit that out. That was the break for the show. It was like, we're going to stop this here. And it's like the Tom Baker era, which is the one I know the best, was really weird because that lasted, he was the longest serving Doctor at 7 years, and the last 3 years their budget got cut by almost like 70%. Because they were doing like the first 3 years of the Tom Baker era, they were doing like historical dramas where it was like costume period pieces and stuff. It was like really expensive.
Yeah.
And then, like season 5, it was like a weird early low-tech blue screen, and all the actors were like, ah, and you could tell there was really nothing there, but it's really bad. And it's like, oh wow, because it's like they're as soon as their ratings dropped a certain percentage, the BBC is just like, that, cut the budget, cut it again. And but we still want the same number. They had those ferocious shooting schedules, like we're gonna do 34 episodes a year and crazy shit like that. So yeah, that's a weird dynasty over there. But that's a weird, it's hard for us to wrap our heads around how that company works, because we always think of it as like, well, that's sort of like PBS, but no, it's not. It's actually, every time you buy a TV over there, you pay a yearly tax, and that's your tax dollars directly making these shows. And as attitudes change, some people go, I don't want to pay for this. Because I mean, a lot of Doctor Who stuff from the 70s and 80s was really violent. Like halfway through the 80s, like their version of the Legion of Decency or whatever just started a campaign about how saying this kids show is too violent. And what the people pointed out is like, Doctor Who is not a kids show. It is. We have a children's entertainment division that's not produced by the, we don't, children's entertainment doesn't produce this. This is for adults. If your kids watch it, that's up to you as parents. But then it kind of progressed into like, well, we have this audience from the ages of like 5 to 100, so we have to shoot in that genre. Because a lot of the stuff was really gory, especially the Tom Baker era. Like there was all kinds of, like, that was the original body horror. Characters like the bad guys melting at the end and all that. So I was like, they did a lot of that shit, and then all of a sudden stopped. It's like, we're not doing that anymore. So yeah,
now it's meant more to be a family show, right?
Yeah,
because that was like the like Torchwood was supposed to be like, yeah, we're gonna take Doctor Who and make it more adult.
Yeah.
By just throwing sex in it.
Yeah, sex, and not even the kind that most people would be comfortable with sometimes. Like, we're gonna have gay and straight sex. Like, why? This is science fiction. Yeah, so it's kind of has that family moniker. But yeah, I don't see what all the anger's about with this. It's fine. It is what it is.
It's because it's a woman that draws a certain sort of internet ire.
Well, when Tom Baker was thinking about leaving in the mid 70s, because he didn't leave till the 80s, BBC said, well, if that's the case, we're going to replace, the next Doctor is going to be a woman. Like, that idea has been around. It's been kicking around for a while.
Yeah.
It's not like it's some new thing. But you see, but everything gets weird. Everything gets political. And maybe there is something to it. I don't know. I'm just not sensing it. I don't feel like I'm inundated with, like, PC propaganda.
Well, I think she's like Jodie Whittaker's, Jodie Whittaker, right? That's her name. I just felt like did I call her Jodie Foster? And I didn't mean to. Yeah, she's totally fine. I just think the writing's not there yet.
Yeah.
And I really like that Pakistan episode. I thought that was pretty good. And there's been like a pretty handful. It's like, oh yeah, they can make a good episode. And then there was a couple ones like, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's always been the thing. Is it's what do you say that uneven quality.
Yeah. But like I think that's more indicative of a new showrunner rather than like Jodie Whittaker.
Yeah.
Because that's what happened with like Supernatural. They got a new showrunner, and like there was an immediate dip in quality in that show.
Yeah.
And then like 2 years later, it was fine. It was basically back to normal.
Yeah, I mean that's hard, especially when you're taking over something like this where it's going to be all eyes.
Yeah.
Especially the science fiction fan community, because they're known to be really nice people and of like new stuff and all that.
But I bothered to watch this one, and I just kind of fell off of Peter Capaldi's one. Did he do 2 seasons?
3 years.
Okay, I'll have to go back and watch those. But
like David Tennant was the longest of the new era. He did 5, and then of course, Christopher Eccleston did one.
Well, yep.
And he like one and done.
I mean, that was a nice surprise, and plus David Tennant picked up the ball running. So there.
Yeah, David Tennant is the Tom Baker of the modern Doctor Who era. Like everybody, and it's sad because you see him in other things, and he's like trying to break out.
Yeah,
that's what you're with that character. It's like once you play him, you're typecast, and then everything he's in after that, it's like, oh look, it's Doctor Who.
And it's sad because like what was the last thing he says? Like, I don't want to go, and that was also like a sentiment of him himself. Like he didn't necessarily want to stop being Doctor Who.
Yeah.
But yeah, those the Matt Smith run, like those first 2 seasons are like pretty good, and then the last few were not. But
yeah, Matt Smith had a strong start. I figured with as young as he was, it's like, oh, he's going to inhabit this role for a while.
yeah,
The first 2 seasons were really strong, and then after that, it's like, what the fuck are they track of what they were doing, or I don't know. It seemed kind of it's strange, but times change.
and then I just haven't gone back to the Peter Capaldi stuff because just fell off of it.
There's nothing wrong with the Peter Capaldi stuff. It has some amazingly dark and poignant. Because a lot of the Peter Capaldi stuff dealt with the Daleks and the Time War, and
Okay, because one of the thing like the companion was like she's been dead like in like the history of the series, right? She was like a Dalek, like the first time you meet her, and like because what they call her, like the Impossible Girl or something like that. She has like some nickname, I can't remember.
I think so. Yeah, that was kind of the arch of the whole series.
Okay.
Because the Matt Smith era, they had what was the overarching
River Song stuff.
Yeah, they had that. That was always an overarching thing. This one does not seem to have one yet.
Yeah. This kind of just seems like almost like Star Trek kind of
episode. We're not running a through line.
Yeah, because I thought like with the time, the Rosa Parks episode, that like the time traveler guy, it's like, oh, this is gonna be a reoccurring thing, and then like no, that's just gone. And, there's the weird tooth guy. You figure, oh, that's gonna be reoccurring. He does come back, but that's that's the only reoccurring thing in the entire season, though.
Yeah, I think they were trying to establish kind of their own thing because they didn't have any of the staple villains, and they didn't have a through line.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
because they haven't had Cybermen, Daleks.
No, it's all been new stuff. Because I believe I've seen the entire season, and yeah, it's all new stuff.
Had the little angry hedgehog creature on the space station.
Yeah, the gremlin thing, whatever. Yeah.
Whatever the fuck that was. Nice CGI.
That was a good episode, but I thought the gremlin thing was stupid.
It seemed like almost a side note that was like suddenly with each passing thing, it's like, oh, this becomes the main thing now.
Because it kind of like the weird society and like like the lady, she's like this like big pilot or whatever, and then like, oh, she's dying because for something I can't remember. Like that stuff was kind of interesting. Like this society, then like, and the idea like this is a medic ship. We only have like 2 medics, and otherwise it's all automated.
Yeah, the automated hospital ship.
Yeah,
that was crazy.
And the guy that was pregnant, like, I guess, that's funny, whatever.
Yeah, it's just weird. It's like, oh, okay, this is a very British kind of, let's put a guy in a dress and do some Monty Python. But anyway, Doctor Who, check it out. Don't believe the hype. I think it's surpassed The Last Jedi, though, for the widest gulf between professional reviewers and fans.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's like 38% to 96%. Some weird, but that's just people making review bots that attack the.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know anything about it.
Well, I did watch so the What Culture, they have like they do really like movie reviews and stuff like that, but I only seen their wrestling stuff. And so I watched their review of that Rosa Parks episode, and they did ups and downs. And it was basically like 40 ups and 2 downs. I'm like, no, I think that was a bad episode.
Yeah, well, I kind of felt like we were being hit over the head. one. And it seemed to like, let's focus in on the worst aspects of American because it's not us.
But yeah, it was informative, but it was also just, it seemed like an overreaction. Because there are like those people out there that want to just casually revisionist history. It's like, oh, Rosa Parks wasn't even, she wasn't, or they're just there's been people trying to undercut Rosa Parks.
Oh yeah, I mean, she lived here, so when she died, it was or she moved here after that. But yeah, when she died, it was there were people like, what did it matter? Wait a minute, no, hold on, that was actually a big fucking deal. She could have been just taken out in the street and beat to death by cops. I mean, it was not a nice time. But yeah, that was a weird thing here. Like, I forget which business magnate it was here, because it didn't come out until after he died. But he paid all her bills from the time she moved here until she died.
Huh.
And then it wasn't until he died that the family said, "Oh yeah, he was paying Rosa Parks, paying her house payment and stuff." And because nobody knew about it, he didn't want anyone to know, except her and a few of her family members. But he was always like, "Yeah, she'll be taken care of." But it wasn't a guy you'd think would be doing that. Like he's like just this kind of loud business guy type. Oh, this guy has no morals, but it turns out taking care of Rosa Parks until she died. But, yeah, I've heard that. That's what people forget sometimes. I think people see too much PC stuff in some things, and they kind of forget, like, because people just have a knee-jerk reaction to, like, I don't like that shit, and it's like, well, wait a minute, you should go out and hear what the other people are saying. The people that are like, look at the good Hitler did, like that kind of argument. That's going on really loud too, but no one even considers that seriously, because they think, well, that's just retarded. But then they think they're being overwhelmed with it. Yeah. I mean, it's all in what kind of media and culture you consume. I consider myself outside the culture of this country because I'm just not interested in the same things most people are. I'm not going to get on an internet forum and vigorously debate the merits of this versus that and have someone quote, fucking Ben Shapiro or Adam Carolla. Wait a minute, I've already heard that. I know where you're getting this from. Come up with your own argument. But yeah. But anyway, Doctor Who. So we watched a movie this week.
Yes.
Watched the 1999
cult classic
Judge vehicle, Office Space, which I didn't realize till I watched it that he also acted in the movie.
Yeah.
Jennifer Aniston's boss with a wig on or something.
Yeah.
Like, wait a minute, that's Mike Judge.
He kind of sounded like the hippie teacher from Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah, he was like delivering. He was supposed to be excited, but it was kind of this stentorian delivery of, like, what was it called that she had to wear?
Flair.
Flair. It's like, you only have. What do we say about the person who only does what they have? But it was like energetic dialogue delivered in a flat monotone.
Yeah.
You never know with Mike Judge if he's fucking with you, if he deliver the dialogue, or I don't know. But yeah, this movie was funny. It makes me see the origin of a lot of things that came later that were also funny.
Oh yeah.
You can see the DNA definitely of Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
And it's weirdly because it was set up at a computer company, but I don't know what the fuck they were doing at this computer company.
He sort of, they explain what Ron Livingston's character is doing is that he specifically is updating banking software for the 2000 Switch.
Oh, okay. Because I remember something about that, because I know the twist in the movie was like, we're going to reprogram the computer to take fractional pennies and embezzle that money because it won't equal a whole lot. They won't notice it, and then something fucks up and it turns out to be like $250,000.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was. I didn't exactly understand what this company did, but it wasn't really necessary.
No, it was just that. I got this from the WTF interview, but Mike Judge used to work for. He was an engineer. I'm not sure if he was a software engineer, but
in physics. So
Okay, yeah, because he worked on the FA-18 Hornet
yeah,
somewhere in Texas, and I think that's where he got a lot of this, office work stuff from. Although when he talks about it, like, I worked on the FA-18 something, it sounds like he like only passingly knew what the fuck he was working on, or he signed some weird, deep secret thing that he can't talk about it, so that's just his throwaway lines. Like, yeah, I worked on that.
yeah.
But yeah, definitely with Silicon Valley, there's like the punctuation with rap music, which
Yes.
definitely carries that forward to Silicon Valley.
Yes, when they're beating up the printer,
Yeah.
they're singing. I forget. I used to know who sang that song because I used to play it really loud when I was it's
The die motherfucker, die motherfucker, die.
yeah. I used to play that really loud somewhere to upset the frightened horse. But,
Back up in that ass with that resurrection.
yep. Great music. It was a golden age of music. Well, and also this was. I know they were probably doing a lot of movies with like I don't know what you'd say, like Central Asian, Indian type people at this time, but this guy really stood out in this movie. It's like, oh, that's the same guy from Silicon Valley, just in a kind of a different form. Because no one could say his name right.
Yeah.
The lady would show up and she'd like have mail, but it'd be for I forget what she'd say. She'd be like Samer Nahinjaganda. Like no one could say that name right. But yeah, this.
When did you first see this? Did you just see this on like TV or DVD or something?
I probably watched this on TV in the like mid 2000s.
Okay.
Because there was a time. There was a time I was a big cheerleader for Ricky Gervais.
Yeah.
Well, because I really liked Ricky Gervais's British Office, and I still do. I still think that's fucking amazing TV. And then some people reference this as like, well, that was a kind of a progenitor. That he based a lot of his stuff off that, and so I did watch this, and I could see the connections.
Yeah.
A little loose. I think they're probably.
Well, I mean, there's been office work comedies before. What was it 9 to 5 with like Dolly Parton and shit like that?
Yeah, there has been, but this was the first one that had that real dark element.
Yeah.
People, they'd be sitting in the restaurant drinking coffee and like, someday I'm going into work. Boom. Shooting the fucking workplace up and stuff. It's like that was.
Yeah, back when it was just called Going Postal.
Yeah, I don't even think you could do that kind of joke.
No.
But yeah, that was because he was acting like he was shooting a gun, and then the over eager server came up in the restaurant. He was like, "Yeah." That's definitely what I would consider that whole vein of like dark meaning, dark sub story type comedy.
Yeah, because this movie, it's considered a cult classic because it basically bombed at the box office, but they became huge on VHS and DVD sales. Like, it made like $14 million at the box office, but it made something like $120 million like in the first year of DVD sales or whatever. Or I guess
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I could see why this bombed at the box office. This would be kind of a weird thing to like, oh, I'm going to go sit down and watch this. I'm trying to put myself in the framework of 1999.
Also, like, it didn't have anybody you knew in it. Like, this is kind of like Ron Levinson. Like, this is the first time I ever seen the dude. And then like, oh yeah, Cedar Rapids' own Ron Levinson. He's really like a lot of his stuff. Like what he brings to it is like the things that made me laugh out loud the most. I remember the first thing that made me laugh out loud because it's been a long time since I've seen this movie. Was that part where it's like I think I'm going to that career hypnotologist or whatever, and then it's like, yeah, he helped Anne lose that weight. And it's like, Peter, she's anorexic. Like, I know, he's really good.
Yeah. The guy eyes on him like halfway through.
And the other delivery that really made me laugh is the time where he's like, this isn't just about me and my dream of doing nothing. Which I don't know. This made me really laugh.
Oh, that's funny. Trust me, I relate.
But there's like a lot of like great bit players in here that like went on to do a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like Gary Cole's probably his most famous part, but like he's gone on to do bunches of stuff. And
Yeah, hasn't that Gary Cole played the asshole in like all kinds of different ways after this?
yeah. Well, yeah, I was like, what's interesting here is like I guess there's a deleted scene where when they were towing the Porsche, like he would come out there and overreact, but like I guess Gary Cole like said like he wanted him to never have like any, just be the same tone that throughout, like never have any kind of like high or low or actually high reaction whatsoever.
Yeah.
So because they thought that made it more like menacing somehow or better, but like he should not be overreacted ever. He just even keeled throughout the whole time.
I read a really or watched a really interesting video where they did a compare and contrast between him and Christian Bale in American Psycho. The same fucking person. I mean, not like really, but it's like, yeah, this is how a more low-powered, low-key, without access to all kinds of money and working on Wall Street, Christian Bale, American Psycho guy was. And they had their performances side by side, and it's like, oh yeah, that's very true. Nobody was saying who's based whose performance on what, but it was like, wow, Christian Bale really acts like this guy a lot, but it gets more extreme, as the movie American Psycho goes on, where this guy's always on this steady like diet of like, I'm gonna make you miserable, and I'm gonna feed off that vibe, but I'm not gonna let you know at all. I'm gonna repeat things like, yeah, the cover letter. Can you include that for us? And there's like 4 other people that come to him about the cover letter, and they're all more or less versions of the same guy.
And then you have Stephen Root. This is probably like his most famous role, but he's like gone on to do bunches of stuff. Like right now he's in Barry, which is really good in that.
Oh, okay.
He played Milton, which is what this is actually all based on. There's shorts about Milton that Mike Judge did for SNL and Liquid Television.
Oh, that's right. It was his early animation.
Yeah.
Before Beavis and Butthead. Okay.
Yeah. But it was just like this guy kept getting fucked over, and he kept saying, well, I'm just going to light the building on fire.
Now, in this movie, was he supposed to be like Swedish or something?
I don't think so. I don't know. He's just kind of
weird way of talking. It's like,
yeah, he based that on some guy like when he worked at for military contracts like that. He met some guy that just basically talked like that, and that's what it's based on.
I didn't know if that was going to come into it because it's like, I can listen to my radio at a reasonable volume between this time because so-and-so can wear her headphones.
Yeah, it's very particular. It's almost like he's trying to whistle, but he talks like in the middle of it.
Yeah.
It's like very low, but he just want to like pursed lips kind of talking.
Yeah, I thought he's like, this guy's either Scandinavian or has a speech impediment. I don't know which.
Yeah, both maybe, huh? John C. McGinley as one of the Bobs.
Oh yeah.
Which I thought like those suspenders are kind of weird. Those look like belts, and I guess they're actually just 2 belts made to look like suspenders.
Oh, is that how they did that?
Yeah.
Okay. Was this Bob C. McGinley's first big role?
John C. McGinley.
John C. McGinley?
No, because like he was in fucking Platoon.
Point Break. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But this might be his first comedic role, maybe?
Okay.
Because I mostly know, like, we watch Platoon, and it's like, yeah, he's a serious actor. But then, like, later on he did Office Space, and then he was in Scrubs for, 7 seasons or whatever. And I think that's probably what he's probably most known for nowadays is Scrubs. Actually, has a pretty good TV show that I kind of dropped off of, called Stan vs. Evil. He's pretty good in that.
Okay, I've heard of that.
It's like on IFC, so you'll never like accidentally see it. But yeah, it's pretty good. It's just him being a gruff asshole and fighting evil.
Well, that's the thing with him is like a character, whether it's comedy or serious, he's always the same person,
Yeah.
like the eternal straight man. Uh, so yeah, that was yeah, I liked his meeting with the guys. It's like, how do you start your day? I come in 15 minutes late. It's like they think this is innovative. It's like, no, this guy's just he's had his mind fucked, and he actually sees the world for what it is now. Just being completely irreverent is, well, actually, it's a fun way to be. Try to employ as much of that as I can and still have it.
He's like, yeah, I don't like my job. I think I'm just gonna stop going. And he's like, you know what? I don't like bills either. I'm just gonna stop paying those. Because yeah, he asks him to come in on Saturday and Sunday, and then he just like sleeps all day Saturday and never goes into work.
And then comes in and parks in the boss's parking spot.
Yeah.
That was good.
And also, his girlfriend breaks up with him over the phone. You see her in one scene, but she's like mentioned for like the first like hour of the movie, or like 30 minutes of the movie.
Yeah, don't all his friends try to convince him? It's like, she's a whore, right? I mean, she's around on you or something. And then
he's like, we haven't seen her for a while, and he's like, I think she might be cheating on me. He's like, yeah, I know what you mean. And he was like, what? Even his neighbor, Diedrich Bader, a lot of like guest roles that like kind of go a long way with what they do. It's like very little, because Diedrich Bader is his neighbor. So even that one guy, you see him in one scene where he's talking about like the one guy got hit by a car, and he's like, there's that scene where he's like, so I'm hoping to meet some chicks there and show him my O face, and it's like oh, and it's like, I think that's in the trailer. And that guy's in the movie for like, that's literally his only scene, but like it's in the trailer, so you think that guy would be like throughout the whole movie. It's like, no, it's
he's
one
gonna
scene.
be throwing out one-liners. Well, this is a movie I had the AV Club review, and then they were talking to Mike Judge, and he said he wasn't even sure if he was going to do this or wanted to. It's almost like an impromptu movie,
Huh?
Because it became one of those deals. Like, if you want to do that, you got to do this, or it was something. It's one of those things.
Yeah, I heard like after I guess the home video guy for Fox found out like how much, like I guess some interview, the interviewer told him how much money it made on DVD sales, and he's like, is that true? And then they looked it up, and it's like, oh shit, like we got a hit on our hands, like we should start production on a sequel. And then like there was plans for that, but like I guess Mike Judge hated this so much, like just to go trying to produce this, that like it's like, no, I'll never do it again. I guess it's also something he gets, even though the all the things he's done, like I guess Office Space are the questions he gets the most about.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's got this great DNA with Silicon Valley. So.
Yeah.
And I like Mike Judge again, so. There was a time when I didn't, because he seemed to have weird libertarian politics, and sometimes I don't. Sometimes I can overlook that with people, but sometimes when they're really outspoken about it, it's like, oh, fuck you. He like wanted to make an idiocracy thing with the Trump campaign. It's like he wanted to shoot commercials to show how stupid Trump was. So it's like, oh, okay. I'm okay with you again now.
Yeah, Idiocracy, another, just another cult movie.
That's my favorite Mike Judge movie.
Yeah.
Idiocracy. Not because I really enjoy it, because it's like so fucking prescient. It's like, oh, I can't. Some people like read the Bible and like, this is the greatest insight into humanity ever. I just watch Idiocracy, not necessarily because I love it, but because I be like, oh, this is the fucking future.
It's like cynicism and truth coming together so unfortunately.
Yeah, and actually in a real way that I can see in my life. It's like some people read the Bible and say, God came into my life. I watch Idiocracy and it's like, I see the roadmap to the future. It's fucking miserable. This isn't some great revelation that came into my life where it's going to be great. It's going to be heaven and we're going to dance in a ring and unicorns. It's like, no, this country is becoming Idiocracy, and probably more rapidly than what Judge predicted. Because how long was the guy in the time capsule in Idiocracy? Or
like 60 years or something like that.
Yeah, okay. So it's happening even faster. Or at least you can see where it started.
ow, my balls. On the next, ow, my balls. Yeah, I don't even think I got like a even a wide release. It just like happened sometime on like DVD, but that was like in the boom DVD era, so like tons of like they just sold tons there.
Yeah, I have this movie and Idiocracy on DVD. That's why I watched it. I have both because it had Mike Judge's name on it, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll watch him.
And then there's Extract, which is weird. So
I haven't seen that one.
it's not very good. It's like a little too bitter.
I was making the food thing.
Yeah, he like owns a company and they make like like vanilla extract or whatever. And then I think he gets like hit in the balls and his balls get removed. It has Jason Bateman in it and Ben Affleck is basically as like the Diedrich Bader character. It's Office Space. It's another comedy about a workplace.
Okay.
But it's like a darker comedy because at some point like there's gonna be like a hit and like I think he hates his wife. It's just kind of a bitter comedy and it's like it doesn't. It's just kind of weird, but you know, there's stuff there. It's different.
Haven't seen that one. But I haven't seen the very last season of Silicon Valley yet either. So.
Yeah.
But there's no reason. I've just been busy watching, Doctor Who for 45 years. Building my Klingon model.
Oh, is it done in the background there?
No, it's not done. Hold on a second. Let me. Dry fitted it together. And
Oh, okay.
Getting the lights in.
Yeah.
And then I got to do all the painting and all the blending and stuff. But I don't know how well you can see that even. I mean, it's just a mess of parts, and what I've essentially done is just routed the light kit.
Yeah.
And put it together dry, so you can kind of see what it's going to look like.
Yeah.
It's done. But it's got a lot of work to do. Probably like a month's worth of work to do on it. But yeah, that's Klingon Katinga, Polar Lights, Metal Etch, light kit. Check it out. Two skills I've never tried before. So see how this goes. Metal Etch is no fun. I'm wanting to see what this looks like in the end. They say it like makes the model details really pop after you paint it and blend it all together, but it's not fun to get it to stick on. It's great to get it to stick on straight surfaces, but on these like a lot of Star Trek models, a lot of curved surfaces, and they're giving you just a flat piece of black brass, and then you got to super glue it onto the plastic part and make it stay on there, and then because it's super glue and it dries brittle, well, then you got to position it and try to put it on there, and then doink, it flies off and hits you. What the fuck am I doing wrong? It's like, well, they have metal etch adhesive. It's like, oh yeah, how much is that? It's like $10 for a tiny little bottle, and I can glue by the gallon for $4. So it's like, okay, either you saw me coming or. But then after this, I'm going into pure kit bashing, custom build. Like I'm gonna make my own crazy shit. I'm gonna try it, and if I fuck, I'll go back to building kits. Anyway, Office Space.
Yeah, it's a lot of people like I don't know.
Talk side road there.
Yeah, Ron Levinson. This is like the first time he showed up, and then the next time we see him in Band of Brothers, and then he just kind of like disappeared for like 6 years. I mean, he did a lot of work, but like nothing. I think it was a lot of indie work or whatever. And he's in a lot of TV shows now.
Yeah. I recognize him. Wow, he went from Cedar Rapids to Yale University. How many Chinese kids you got to kill on that road? That's where I recognize him, though, as Band of Brothers.
Yeah.
Because when I was watching this, it's like, is that a really young Band of Brothers guy? What role did he play in that? He was like the second guy. His name was like, he was named after the president. It was Nixon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then David Herman, who like I only recognized him from Office Space, and then when I went back and watched like old episodes of Mad TV, it's like, oh, that's where that guy's from.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
he's like from early.
Singer.
Yeah, that's Michael. Yeah, he plays Michael Bolton. So yeah, he was in Mad TV. I don't know. I think he's doing a lot of directing stuff now. I think he like directs comedies now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like Gary Cole went on to be like big character actor, and fuck the guy who played Milton there. I forgot his name, even though I had it pulled up.
Stephen Root.
Yeah, Steve Root.
Yeah, he's been in all kinds of stuff.
And then Jennifer Aniston like didn't really have a lot to do in this movie, but except be the girlfriend.
Yeah, I was always wondering if she. I was like, was she in this movie because Friends was a big thing?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, this is probably like peak Friends, or is this like, yeah, or maybe the start of Friends or something like that.
No, I think because Friends, when did it end?
It ended in the 2000s, but
yeah. This seems you're right. Yeah, this is like a peak Friends moment.
She's trying to get back into movies, trying to shake off that leprechaun.
Yeah, what a difference a nose job makes. Holy shit. I think it was it Red Letter Media did the thing on Leprechaun?
Yeah.
He had like just comparisons of like, this is a nose job that really fucking worked. Maybe I'm quoting somebody else. I don't know.
I heard Jennifer Grey, like, she got the nose job, and then like she like somehow she wasn't interesting anymore just because she looked like a normal pretty lady.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you need to look like your kind of like broken nose kind of thing going on there. It's like, that's your feature. You should use.
You need to look like Caligula from the Roman times. That weird noses that those people had back then. Poor nose jobs. Have you ever seen a nose job?
Like an operation of it? No.
Horrible. Wouldn't think it was like that involved. Oh my god. It's actually terrifying to see and hear. You ever had your nose broke?
No.
Been punched in the face really hard or whatever? The sound it makes. Well, imagine that like continuing over and out.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Sound of aluminum foil being crunched together under fabric or something. Yeah, it's no good. Anyway, what were you saying?
I think I was gonna like make a wrestling. There's a wrestler, Charlotte Flair, who is the daughter of Ric Flair. She's really good.
Yeah.
There's like a time where like it's like, did she get like work done? And like I didn't want to be disparaging of it, but it was like I'm pretty sure she like looks completely different now. Like she like it seemed like a bit more mannish looking before. She got boob jobs. She got a boob job, of course.
Those always work out though.
Actually, like she's having a feud with Becky Lynch, and it was funny because Becky Lynch put something on Instagram or whatever about like why she missed a pay-per-view, because it's like she actually got punched in the face and had her nose broken, and she's like standing there with her arms up and she's like bloody because it was like actually a cool moment for her character, but then she couldn't wrestle because she got a concussion and a broken nose.
Yeah.
And then Charlotte Flair 1 week couldn't wrestle because like her implants exploded after doing some high risk maneuver.
When your implants explode.
But then like it's like, yeah, it's like, did she get work done? But then I realized like they showed like how she got injured one time, and it's like, oh yeah, she jumped off the top rope and the person that was supposed to catch her caught her wrong and basically just shoved her face first into the ground. It's like, oh, she got her nose fucked up and she got a nose job to fix it. It's like, okay, never mind.
Yeah, she wasn't doing that. That was work. That was related. But anyway, Office Space. If you want to see the progenitor for all the dark 2000 workplace comedies, that's what I get out of it.
Yeah. It's another like there's a bunch of cult movies that came out, and maybe that's why 99 kind of stands out, is because these are the movies that or became early DVD hits,
Yeah.
and they got re-releases too. Because I think like the first release of Office Space was just a straight DVD, like no extras, and then like they had like 40 special editions after it became a big hit on DVD.
I just have the generic one. It's just like it has the trailer, and mine doesn't have commentary.
I got like a deluxe one. I might still. Yep.
Oh, the old swing line stapler. Oh wow, it actually says Office Space.
Yep.
Is it made by Swingline?
No, it's
damn
some
it.
Chinese knockoff. But
Oh, of course.
yeah, they I guess yeah, for this movie like they got I guess Swingline did make a red stapler and stopped making it, so they made it, the prop department made a special one for this movie, and then after this movie there's such a demand for red Swingline staplers that they made a production of red ring of the basically the one from Office Space.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
Anyway, Office Space, 1999. Check it out. If you like,
If you're subscribed to Stars, which basically means if you have cable, you can watch it for free or with your cable subscription. That's how I watched it.
and then watch Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
And then watch The British Office.
and then watch Idiocracy.
And then watch Idiocracy. And then kill yourself. Because you know where it's going. Was there anything else?
No.
It's almost nap time. All right, this week for the American Greed Factory podcast, this is Nathan.
This is Conlon. Goodbye, America.